Hello and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is June 23rd and we're out here in the desert again. Where we left off, I had not quite set this guy up yet. As you can see, I've since crafted two of these and set them up. So, gonna try to go a little faster through each item than I normally do, just because there has been so much since I last left off, and there's a lot of repeat stuff in there, so I won't try to go into too much detail, just kind of problems where they popped up. Unfortunately, played a lot yesterday at work, but wasn't able to, or didn't have any time post work to make a video. So just going to be a little bit longer one today. Also, I apologize, I'm a little congested. So if there's random like audio drops where I stop talking for a few seconds, that's just me trying to clear my throat away from the mic so you don't have to hear that. But anyways, so over here, we got like I said, we got the Mark IV set up. Now, you might notice these random orange floating cables. So originally, I had these guys outputting to a sub network and then into the main network. Basically the same way I do almost all my multi-blocks nowadays, except for that was not working for this. It took me a while to figure out, but basically every recipe I had with plasma was voiding. And do not believe Google. These things definitely void overflow, despite what Google may say. But, and the problem was I even like checked, like I had room for all the plasmas and stuff. But as soon as I swapped these to being on the main network, not an issue. Wasn't voiding anything over anymore. That being said, I have not moved this guy off of the subnet network yet. So I haven't turned it back on. Actually, the only reason I haven't turned it back on is because I forgot about it, to be completely honest. But because I do still want to use it, because even though it's slower than these two, this thing is still pretty fast for Mark III recipes, so just more throughput. But yeah, that's these guys set up. Nothing too crazy. I do plan on crafting at least one more before going for the Mark V, but that we'll see. We'll see what I feel like crafting tonight, like letting run while I go to sleep. But anyways, if we hop back to the main base, the next thing I kind of did, and well, I shouldn't say next thing. So one of the things I have been doing, and we can kind of show with this guy, which is my primary assembly machine for the base, like most of my assembly recipes come through here, is going through and upgrading hatches. So again, with the voiding problem, a lot of my recipes seem to fail to complete because of just random one or two one-off items voiding. So every time I find that, like in a recipe, I basically go to that multi-block, upgrade from the output buses that are like by default to these 134,000 megabyte ones, as well as for the output hatches, same thing. I also have been going through and swapping all the recipes to buffer. This one I've been putting off for a while because I wanted more, or because I just knew it was going to be a pain in the butt. There were so many recipes over here, so many different hatches. Now, right now, all I ended up putting on this guy is circuit 0, circuit 1, 2, and 3. And I may add more later, but those tend to be the ones I have like the highest throughput of items for. So if something else pops up where I'm like waiting on it, I'll move it back over to this. But the rest of the recipes, I ended up coming over here and finishing my assembly building. Now this one I've put on the back burner for a long time. I've wanted to set this up. I had these guys set up, but hadn't finished it out. So basically, there's a assembly machine for each circuit. This thing is technically faster for parallels, but I just did this for convenience. Because a lot of these, basically all the recipes over here that I'm aware of, I don't craft in huge amounts. And if I find while I'm crafting something big that I am waiting for something from this, I will move these out of here. But all these guys are running at UEV with the exception of one that needed UIV power for one of its crafts. So yeah, it's just circuit 0 through 24. So there's 25 of these. I was real happy to get this done. And that took made a lot of room in the main assembler. Plus it'll be easier to organize and all that stuff and sort things from a distance, because the buffer hatches, if you look down in the bottom right corner, You see large scale assembler within brackets the circuit number, so it makes it easier to drop in patterns remotely without actually having to come over here. This guy still just has frame blocks and then a couple of other recipes in here, like mixed metal ingots and all these kind of patterns that I was crafting a ton of. Now, specifically, this raw carbon mesh and this mixed metal ingot actually took care of the need to craft so many of those. So one of the little side projects I did today, because those were annoying me so much, is I actually made a little passive line for reinforced tubes, because it was driving me nuts. Every time I went to craft something big, the response from the system would come back, not enough reinforced glass, not enough reinforced glass. So basically, from start to finish, this is reinforced glass. We put carbon, and I went with the polybenzyl into this guy, which gets us raw carbon. This guy compresses them to raw carbon mesh. Assembles them. This guy compresses them into carbon plates. This guy smelts them into reinforced glass, molten reinforced glass, and then finally solidify these guys into reinforced glass tubes. So shouldn't ever be an issue again, unless I'm getting like really crazy amounts of throughput. And in that case, all I'll need to do is come and just upgrade the size. I didn't go too crazy because I didn't want to get into a different annoying situation where I'm literally using all of my carbon or all of my poly, whatever. Like if we go reinforced tubes, I think 500,000 is pretty good at a time for me. That I don't think I've ever come close to needing that. So either way, a minor annoyance taken care of here. One of the next things I did, and not in any particular order, is over here for these nano assembly complexes. I did set up the BioWare one. Nope, this is the optical. That's like, I don't think we would have crafted that far. This guy is the BioWare. About halfway through to getting it fully, configured, where it'll use less of the biocatalyst. You still use some because the actual assembly recipe needs some. Nothing really to note here, except for that the first time I made my mainframe pattern, I actually forgot to put the foils on here, so that led to a little bit of issues. But aside from that, was pretty straightforward. I will say for the BioWare and the crystal, I did just use the component assembly line casings that are required for the recipe. If I want to get even higher throughput out of these, I do need to upgrade these blocks eventually. One of these nights when I'm not crafting something else big, I'll just throw in a craft for the 60 UIV component blocks, or I guess technically 80, because I think I only have, UHV on these. I did do UIV over on this guy. That way, whenever I go to craft quantum circuits, I'm already set because they require that. You only need UEV for the Pico circuits that we can currently craft in there. Let's see. So that's a lot of like base building stuff. Like I said, throughout the base, I've been upgrading input hatches, output hatches everywhere. It's been a consistent thing, making bigger patterns to promote more throughput and less like calls. But there are a few things that I wanted to start working towards. The first was the next big progression step, which is going to be the Mark V fusion reactor. Now, technically speaking, I can actually complete that quest because I crafted compact. Oh, I did compact fusion. I was just a little scared for a second. I did craft a Mark V reactor just to make sure I could. The compact one obviously needs 48 of these to make it, but I'm not going to grab that right now because I'm just going to go for the compact first. I'm not in a particular rush for that. That is like the goal for the week. Crafting the actual reactor controller block is not too big of a deal when I was testing it out. However, the compact coil Mark II final type that it uses on the inside, I can technically craft it. I needed to craft a bigger crafting CPU, which is this guy. This guy's big enough to handle it. However, it needed 43 million Hypogen. So that was just going to make it so I couldn't craft anything else throughout the day. So I was like, screw it. I'm not going to craft that right now. I'll slowly craft that at night and then work on passives and stuff in the meantime and upgrading the base to be able to craft it even faster. But to be able to get to that, there were a couple things I needed to do. One was I need to upgrade the research station. I actually need to upgrade this for two separate things that I researched in the last couple days. So for this guy, he's sticking out a lot further, you can see. Upgraded to... Oh, something. Interesting. Where did all my circuits go? I wonder why that burned out. That's crazy. I'm not sure why those all burned out, but all right. What are these? Optical. Well, it was all optical mainframes. I made myself a little pattern here because this isn't the first time this has happened. As you can see, Oganison's my new one that's gonna start yelling at me for not having. But, well, you know what? I think I actually know what caused it. I think I interrupted the power and that made it angry. Normally I shut this guy off when I'm not using it. But anyway, so this guy by itself, when it hasn't burnt up all its circuits, outputs around 77,000 computation, which is way bigger than anything I need for the moment that I'm aware of. However, it made things crafting much faster. And then the other thing I did was I upgraded this guy to be wireless and take a 256 UIV amps. So I needed to research the Compact 5 reactor, and I also needed to get the highest tier of Draconium schematic, which it should be in here. Yeah, here, the chaotic core schematic. So I want this guy specifically because one of the things I've also wanted to improve, but I didn't want to waste a bunch of time crafting a ton of these blocks to 16.3 crafting storage, is upgrade crafting overall for higher throughput, which means using these 4096 core co-processing units. So to get this thing is still not enough storage for a couple of items. So I'm working towards being able to craft the singularity crafting block, which is, if we come over here, this guy right here, singularity crafting storage. It has more storage than I'll ever need. So basically all the blocks will need just this guy and then a bunch of the co-processors. And that'll be easy to like expand the size. I'll just like lay out where it is, but it'll make crafting a little bit faster because it's able to call for more crafts. But however, to get to this, we need chaotic cores. To get chaotic cores, we need tier 4 casings as well as a schematic. Like I said, this thing took not too much computation, but pretty good amount of power. So that's why I need the laser upgrade. And then just a minor note, while I was in the process of that, I also upgraded this quantum link so that the matter manipulator can get way more power if I'm doing a huge like thing. I haven't really had power issues, so I've never really felt the need to go in there and get all the other upgrades, but I have it now. But I do think me interrupting the power is what burned out those circuits, so that was unfortunate. So I'll just have to remember if I make any changes to this guy in the future to make sure this guy's off. So with the going for the tier 4 casings though, for those chaotic cores, I did kind of I did go into a little side quest yesterday, which is where I planned on stopping to make the video yesterday. Was, these are tier 3 casings, need the tier 4 casings, but I'd actually run out of essentia because I didn't mean to come down here. For whatever reason, maybe it was lag, or maybe I took it out and just forgot, which I doubt. This bee had somehow made its way into here, I think, and killed itself. So I wasn't getting essentia out of this guy. So I actually didn't have enough essentia for all my iCore that I was crafting. So I wanted to make sure that that was never an issue again. So you can see all these guys are offline because I crafted myself a thermometric essentia cell. Supplies all essentia to all types indefinitely. So now if we were to actually turn essentia on here, you can see it's right at the top, 4.5p. I have more essentia than I'll ever need, and it only takes up one circuit now, or one channel now. So that's pretty sweet. And this guy still works just fine now with that. There was no issues. I will say, if you've upgraded from 2.8 to 2.9, you might have an issue I had where this guy wasn't getting supplied essentia. Not because I was out, I double checked that. But I just had to break the essentia provider that's below this pedestal and re-put it down, and that solved the issue. Not really sure why. Just one of those weird things that happened. So I got that upgrade. That's probably my favorite thing I've done in the last few days. It's nice to never have to worry about essentia again. Now I'm gonna, let's see what we got. I nearly forgot the biggest thing I did really needed to do. So my whole point of getting those compact 4 reactors though was to be able to set down and set up the 3 passives, or 3 major passives I wanted from these guys. But as you can see, I believe I had this one set up on Friday when I made that video. These 2 are definitely new. I only set them up today. At least got them running today. This one is passive infinity, passive hypogen, passive spacetime. So I'm pretty excited about that. I do believe I need to speed up my infinity one. I haven't kept up. Yeah, I'm net negative on infinity. I am, however, net positive on hypogen, and definitely net positive on space-time. So that's pretty sweet. Obviously, the space-time's really slow too. So probably the main way I'll need to upgrade these is just more wireless power. This one doesn't have its own thing, but what I am going to do for all these forges going forward is Lapotron, supercapacitor, wireless, laser directly in, instead of all these shenanigans. So I do want to clean up these and get them all set up. But like I said, nothing too fancy going on here, just literally stocking input hatches, stocking input buses, and yeah. The other thing I did, I needed more radox. So I did craft the first of the new mega multi-blocks besides the centrifuge, I guess. That is one of the old ones, which this is the mega distillery. This is probably the first of the megas I shouldn't say the first. I really like this one over the old one. A lot of the old blocks, I prefer the old versions. So just kind of like squares. I don't know, maybe I'm lame, but this one's pretty sweet. I'm a big fan of how it looks. And it is just here making radox for us. It is still not fast. This thing's still, this is still really slow. At some point, I will throw a laser down here to speed this up. But I will probably clean all this up and then move it over from here, because there's really no reason for me. Once I clean all this up, I should have a net positive of one of the UHV capacitors. Now I can craft the UHV capacitors decently faster. I did upgrade one of the energy cluster recipes to the Hypogen wire instead of the past one, so I'm not waiting on like millions of Lapotron chips anymore. So it is decently faster, but I still can't go about crafting them all willy-nilly. And yeah, so I got this set up for radox. And then I did craft all the pieces for this guy, the Exo Foundry. Obviously, I haven't formed them. It took me a little while to decide where I wanted to put it, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to put it out over here. But I think it'll be fine. And then if I ever need more, I'll just do a little line this way. But I'm pretty sure this guy's intended to not have to spam. And then I definitely am going to need more plasma forges, and those are just going to expand in that direction. Just plan on doing a big old square this way. I also kind of picked out this area over here between these 2 mountains for the God Forge whenever I get to that here, probably in the next month or so. That's the goal. But yeah, so I went through all those really quick. If you ever have a question about any of the things or any of my setups or want to see them closer, just let me know. For the moment, though, just a couple things I do need to work on. So my Dyson Swarm modules are getting real low. And part of the reason is because I can't make a craft right now because of steel leaf dust. I was looking at steel leaf. I do currently, the way I get it is through the Twilight mob in an EEC, and then I use the armor it drops to turn into steel leaf, but it's really slow, especially because before I start going too crazy with these forges over here, I am like net positive in power still, and I am keeping an eye on that in case I ever go net negative. But I do want a couple more Dyson swarms. Like I said, my goal is 1 trillion EU a tick. That way I think that'll hold me over while I really overclock these guys in particular. But I need to be able to craft the swarms on demand and not have to have that be a stress factor. So I need to fix steel leaf. I believe looking into it, the best way it's going to be for steel leaf for me is to actually use 2.9's main like cover feature, so to speak, which is crops. This, I believe, was a new crop before. I don't think this was a thing. Maybe it was. I don't remember there being a crop for it, or I probably would have done that instead of the stupid EEC thing I got set up. But I gotta look into how to do this, and I'm going to try to do this tomorrow so I can rid steel leaf being an issue. And then the other thing is, just setting up the Exo Foundry and a couple other just random here knickknacks. But I kept it to 21 minutes. That's pretty good. Like I said, ton of progress. I'm real excited about how we are progressing along now. It kind of got real slow for a while, right after crafting the first of this guy over here. I feel like once I hit UIV, it kind of felt like hitting a wall and slowing right down. But definitely picking up the steam again. And yeah, I believe that is mostly everything. Like I said, I did a lot more. And if I remember anything important, I'll cover it tomorrow. And I should be able to make videos every day this week, I believe, unless I just make 0 progress for a day, then I won't. But anyways, appreciate you watching. I hope everybody had a good weekend and had a good day, and I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.